Welcome to How to Make It in the City on WBAI in New York 99.5 FM. This is a show where we explore both the practical and spiritual aspects of making it. This show is for artists, entrepreneurs, dreamers, and visionaries who are determined to end the cycle of working soul-crushing jobs just to pay bills. This is where we learn how to live our mission while making a great living. This is where we learn how to do well by doing good. This is where we learn how to step into our divine calling while entering a space of financial freedom and abundance. I am your host, Karikari-Yawson. In August of 2015, I quit my six-figure salary day job as a corporate lawyer to step into my purpose of healing through storytelling. I now travel the country performing my stories, such as my debut book, Sune's Gift, while facilitating presentations and training sessions for schools, universities, governments, and corporations. Loved ones, it has been quite a bumpy ride, and I have a long way to go. Let's figure out how to make it in this city together. During this session, we're going to delve deeper into the idea of what it takes to make it. What is required? What work do we have to do? To help us with this question, we have esteemed journalist, radio personality, and professor Karen Hunter. In 1987, Hunter received a BA in English Literature from Drew University. Shortly thereafter, she joined the New York Daily News, where she was one of the paper's first African-American female news columnists. While there, she was a member of the news team that won both the Pulitzer Prize and the Polk Award. In January of 2002, Hunter was appointed by Hunter College administration as an assistant visiting professor in the Department of Film and Media Studies, and presently is a distinguished lecturer at Hunter College. In 2007, she launched Karen Hunter Publishing, an imprint of Simon & Schuster. As the head of Karen Hunter Books, Karen has published numerous New York Times bestsellers. But perhaps most notably, Karen Hunter is the voice and intellect behind Sirius's wildly popular radio program, The Karen Hunter Show. As Karen often says, The Karen Hunter Show is not a talk show. It is an action show. Thought-provoking and cutting-edge, The Karen Hunter Show features candid conversations on the topics of the day and segments with guests across a variety of mediums to empower listeners. Welcome, Karen Hunter. How are you?
I'm good, Madam Yawson. How are you?
I'm very great. Very, very great. And so happy because I've been on your show, The Karen Hunter Show, twice. So I'm so excited to have the tables turned and to be able to interview you, and so we can get the Maven's perspective behind the magic. So please, for our audience, most people are familiar with you because you are a leading personality, but please tell us about the journey that you took to become the journalist, professor, publisher, and radio personality that you are today.
I was just had a conversation with someone this morning, and I said, I feel like I'm 100 years old. We were talking about the wisdom of the elders, and he was, telling me how he met this woman who was 70 years old, and she gave him the best advice ever. And I said, I feel like I'm 100 with all of the things that I've done, and the kinds of experiences that I've gathered over the years, and I'm, nowhere near 100, of course. But, when I think about success, success comes only through experiences, and, I think many of us don't do the things that we might imagine doing because we're afraid of failure. We're afraid that we won't be good enough. We're afraid that, maybe it's not going to live up to what we expect. And, I've never been afraid to do anything. So, from running a chicken business out of the basement of my college dorm to, starting a publishing house with no experience or, background in that area, you just jump in and you do it. And
wow.
You keep doing it, until you get good at it.
Well, take us back to that. So you're in college and your first entrepreneurial venture was selling chicken?
Yeah, fried chicken, cucumber slices, and French fries.
I love it. I love
it. You
it.
got to put the healthy, in there. So.
It wasn't vegan. It may not have been gluten-free, but you were selling it and people were buying it. I love it. So
well, there was very little options. There were very few options in Madison, New Jersey. There was the Nautilus Diner down the street that we called the Nauseous. There was a pizzeria that was in town. And, for a college person with a college budget, there were very few options in that Madison area. And I said, well, but I think that's technology. You always try to find, the solution to a problem. And the solution to this problem was we needed to have better options. So I decided to go to Newark. I got a deep fryer from the wholesale house. My dad owned he owned a corner store for a number of years. So I knew where the wholesale place was in Newark. So I went, got a deep fryer, got, my first pack of chicken, flour, Lowry's, the ingredients to make good fried chicken, garlic powder, the whole nine. And then I was like, well, we need something to cut the grease. Let's get some cucumbers. And, so we'll serve cucumber slices. And I started that out of the basement of my dorm, which had a full kitchen. And I had a couple of my friends working there while I made deliveries. And, I started the first batch, and then I made deliveries, and then it started growing. And down the street there was Fairleigh Dickinson and St. Elizabeth College, and they started calling in. We used the phone in the dorm as the hub. And
wow.
Long story short, we ended up getting shut down because I think the pizzeria in town felt threatened because we were handing out flyers and stuff, and we were taking away business. And the Board of Health came and shut us down because we didn't have a license to do that. So.
But it was your first venture. Okay, so you're in college, making some money until, unfortunately, the gig was up due to regulations. At that point, did you know you wanted to be a journalist?
No, I just wanted to be, I majored in English, so I knew I could write. And I majored in English because it was easy. I was good. I was a very good reader, very good writer. And it was the one thing. What I knew for sure, and I tell this to my students today at Hunter, is that you need to know, you need to have a game plan while you're in school. So my game plan was to get out in 4 years. And then hit the road, hit the ground running. Whatever it was, I was going to do it, But I knew that I couldn't languish. I saw so many of my, fellow students there, 5, 6 years. I'm like, why are you still here? Get out. The world is your oyster. Like, why are we here for this long? So I picked a major that I knew I could just, sail through. And unless you're going to be a doctor or something, specific, chemist, you just need to get the degree. So that much I knew. And I knew I wanted to do something that would, I wouldn't say make me famous, because that was not my goal, but, Oprah was on the horizon then, and I was like, that's not a bad thing to be, so journalism wasn't it. I fell into journalism because when I graduated from college with a BA in English, I decided, my mother actually was like, you got to get a job. And I was like, okay. So I got the want ads, and so I looked for jobs that would use my writing skills. And there was a reporter's position open at a local paper in my town. And when I went to interview, the person in charge said that there were 2 positions open. She liked me. And actually, which one did I want? And one paid $15 more a week. So I took the sports editor's job because I was familiar with sports, but I'd never covered sports. But I'm familiar enough with this. I think I could do it, and it paid $15 more. And the reporter's job, didn't pay as much. And I figured being an editor was more important than just being a reporter, so I took the job. There's nothing new under the sun. They're like books, and so I went to Barnes & Noble and got a bunch of books on writing. And at the time, they had a newspaper called the Star-Ledger. It still is in New Jersey, #1 paper. And I just looked at their sports section, and I started modeling how they did sports. And I would do the sports the same way, cover the stories, write the headlines, because I had to do all of that as the editor. I had to paste the paper up. This was back in the day before there were, computers. We had to literally go with the glue and tape, glue on the headlines and put everything together, the cut lines to the photos and everything. I did it all. And within 3 months, I applied to the Star-Ledger, and I was hired there.
Wow. So then you started moving up. Okay. And then you wound up at the Daily News at one point, right?
Yeah, because I was sitting there at the Star-Ledger. Same thing. I was reading this column by this guy named Philip Bondi. He was writing about race in the sports department at the Daily News, and it was some great stuff he was doing on the Boston Celtics. And I was like, I really want to work there. This paper that has this guy writing there, I want to write this stuff. And at the time, I was covering high school sports in the Star-Ledger, and I'm like, I want to do that. And so one of my vacations, I went and interviewed at the Daily News, and I met with the sports editors and came back, and I got fired from the Star-Ledger because somebody from the Daily News asked them. They didn't tell me this. One of the editors later told me that you had the audacity. They just gave you a raise and they just promoted you, and you had the audacity to go look for a job. So they were pissed off about that because somebody from the Daily News called to find out who was this Karen Hunter person. Long story short, I'm sitting at home with no job now, like devastated because they didn't hire me on the spot at the Daily News. And so I decided to call them every day until they hired me.
Wow.
So,
I love it.
It's your fault. It's your fault. I'm unemployed. So when are you hiring me? So when are you going to bring me in? How are you doing? Yeah, so I'm sitting here waiting for you to call me. When are you going to call me to, so they finally were like, okay, come on in. Jeez. Took 3 weeks, though.
I love it. Okay, and so then you, at the time when you wind up on this great team, which is winning Pulitzers and whatnot, at that point, is it like you can just write your ticket and go anywhere and do anything?
No, because you know, in the midst of your journey, I don't know how many people, and I've been accused of this, you don't really stop and say, oh, okay, well, I'm here because I didn't set out to win a Pulitzer. I was part of a team with a man that had a vision from day one that he was going to win a Pulitzer. So when he took over, Michael Goodwin took over the editorial page and invited me over. That was probably a good move on his part. So I was I was in the business department writing business stories, women in business, and was doing a lot of black business. I did a whole piece on the business of rap. I won an NABJ award for that. And he saw me sitting there one day, and he said, you want to come over and join the editorial board? And I was like, hell no. That's some boring-ass writing. Who wants to do that? Okay. And he said, I think it would be good for you, for your career. It would challenge you because, you're sitting here in business, and I know you're better than this. So he challenged me. I love a challenge. So I was like, all right. It was the most boring, most horrific kind of writing you can ever imagine because you're writing somebody else's opinion in a format that is not your own. There's no creativity. But it did train me and it disciplined me in a way. And then to watch him, because he wanted to win a Pulitzer, to understand that there's actually a system to everything. You win awards because you have a game plan to win an award. You are successful because you have a game plan for success. It doesn't just come to you because you're cute or you're smart or you're even good. There has to be a plan in place. So he had a plan. He told us what the plan was. And first year, we were runners-up. The second year, we won a Pulitzer. I was like, okay.
I love it.
Let me apply that. Yep. So I use that. That's kind of, that's my secret sauce, is kind of having a vision when you come into a situation for what you want to attain. Now, you may not attain the exact thing, but you're going to do something.
I love it. I love it. So now, okay, I want to ask you about what you think were some of the keys. And from what you've said, I can also review some of them. One, it seems as if you're someone who sees opportunities. You're there at Drew. There's a pizza shop. There's not many options. You start frying some chicken and cutting some cucumbers, and all of a sudden you have a business which is thriving and thriving so much that incumbents who've had businesses for far longer feel threatened and calling the authorities on you. So I see, one, this idea of seeing opportunities. I see, two, taking initiative. You discussed that when you got the position at your first newspaper, you didn't necessarily know what it took to be an editor. And you actually went to the library, started getting books on editing, looked at the Star-Ledger, started copying their format and saying, hey, this is what it is that I have to do to do well at this, and I'm actually going to do the research necessary. And then the third thing that I got from you is this idea of the game plan and the system. You said there's nothing new under the sun. The person who was your supervisor said, I want a Pulitzer, and brought out a whole plan. Said people who have won Pulitzers perhaps did these 5 things or they did these steps, and this gets us a Pulitzer. And at first, he hadn't perfected the methodology. You were runner-ups, but then in subsequent years, you got it. So I'm seeing 1, seeing opportunity. 2, taking initiative. 3, getting a game plan and following it because there's a system for everything. Is there anything else you want to add for that? Add to that, pardon me.
Nope, you pretty much covered it all.
Thank you, Karen. I love it. I love it. So these are some of the habits. Now, I also heard about some of the challenges and bouncing back and seeing it as an opportunity. So one challenge that you discussed on your journey was this job loss. This was one of your first jobs. I think it was job 2, and you are fired because they basically find out that you're looking at another job and see you as an ingrate because you had just gotten a raise. And so you went from having a job with a raise to having a no job, but instead of just crying yourself to sleep at night, you said, hey, I am going to harass these people at the Daily News because it's their fault I got fired, and so they owe me a job for sure, and so I'm not resting until they give me the job that I need. So that's phenomenal. That's a wonderful way to bounce back from devastation. Were there any other low points that you experienced? And tell us about how you bounced back.
Lots of them. I'm black. I'm a black woman in America,
Okay.
But you're gonna hit them. But what I'm a little delusional. So I never focus on the things that happen until way later when I'm like forced to reflect. Like I don't sit there and go, oh, did I not get that opportunity because I was black, or did I not? Did they not? In the moment,
Okay.
that was really bad. Or I didn't get what I wanted. But I don't focus on the no's. I'm always focusing on the next. So for me, it's like, okay, I'm writing books. I have like 7 bestsellers. I go to a publisher and I'm like, I want to do a book for young people, and they're like, well, black kids don't read, and I'm like, really?
Oh, goodness.
Okay, well, I read a lot when I was coming up.
And you certainly were black.
And I clearly was black, and I used to read, and all my friends read. So maybe we're not putting out books that kids want to read.
Yeah.
So after I got no's a couple of times, I was like, well, I guess I'll start my own publishing house. I'll put out the books that I want to see out there. And so that was the response, to not be able to do what you want to do because somebody is telling you no, and they're wrong. Then you have to figure out, okay, well, I don't know how to run a publishing house. Let me partner with somebody that's running a publishing house. So all of these people I've gotten bestsellers with, I'm sure they'll want to work with me because I made them money. So I set up meetings, and I met with 5 different publishers. All of them wanted to do something with me, and within Simon & Schuster, I had options to work with 2 different imprints, and I picked, at the time it was called pocketbooks, because those are the books that I bought as a kid. I didn't realize that they were pocketbooks because they were paperback and that they had, a little kangaroo on there because they were cheaper or whatever. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I just know when I was buying my books, they had the little kangaroo on it. And how cool would it be to work with the company that, had many of the books that I purchased as a kid? And, Richard Simon, I did my homework on him. He was married to a civil rights activist, Heinemann, who is Carly Simon's mother. Richard Simon's Carly Simon's dad, and they were really progressive people. And, I was like, wow, that would be cool to work for a company that, has this kind of progressive background and understands, the struggle of injustice and things like that, which I'm sure many people working at Simon & Schuster don't even know to this day. But I believe that, there's a spiritual component to everything that you do. And so, if you have a vision for what it is you want to accomplish, and you can imagine, like I'm stepping into something that Richard Simon and his wife, who was a secretary there, and who was, from the global majority, she wasn't just a white woman, just a Jewish woman. She had, a background that was very diverse during a time in the 20s and 30s in this country when, it wasn't popular for a woman to be out there, fighting and battling injustices. That was his wife. Okay, this was a different kind of dude. That's nice to work there. So, it's just like, okay, and even within that company, I didn't get to do all of the things I wanted to do because of the corporate structure. So I was like, okay, what do I do now? All right, so I understand now how this works, because you got to know every game, whether you're playing chess or hopscotch, has rules. So what are the rules to this game that I'm playing? Like my boss with the Pulitzer. What are the rules to winning a Pulitzer? What the last 20 Pulitzers, what did they have in common? What do we need to do to duplicate that? Me coming into the Star Ledger, let me duplicate the model, because then that's successful. And if I want to apply there, they already are familiar with this model, so let me model the model and perfect it. And guess what? Yeah, they hired me in 3 months after working at this other paper. So there's nothing new under the sun. And everybody that thinks they're creative and unique and they're geniuses, okay, that's nice. But I like to believe that there are people that came before us that, I don't want to work that hard. I rather let somebody guide me, and I rather, use the models that have already proven effective and successful, and model them and add my own little spin to them, put my own little flavor on it. But I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. If it rolls, let's keep rolling with it.
Keep rolling. I got you. So now I wanted to touch on a certain matter which I think should be dear to your heart. You said that you believe in there's a spiritual components to everything that you do. You said that you don't focus on the no's, you focus on the next. And we've seen that in your own career, in which there's someone was saying no to Black people for a long time with respect to the Confederate flag at the South Carolina State House. And following the murder of 9 people at Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina, you created the petition on moveon.org in order to remove that flag. And now this is something that literally has been, I'm sure, tried time and time again, maybe not through the moveon.org petition, but in various ways. Yet somehow, when you did this in 2015, you were able to get 500,000 signatures in a record 3 days. And several days after that, it was removed. And so, one, I want to say thank you, because I appreciate the fact that you took that time. And I also wanted to ask you this. As someone who is a person of influence, you have your own show on Sirius, you are a famous publisher. What do you believe is the responsibility, if any, of people who have reached a position of influence with respect to progressive issues and promoting economic and social and political change?
All right. Well, let me back up. No, number one, when I got up, actually didn't go to sleep that Thursday when those 9 beautiful people were massacred by that racist domestic terrorist. I couldn't sleep. I got up, and it just disturbed me that during this time, that people, not just that people were in church worshiping, that Black people couldn't just peacefully just exist, and that the only reason why they're not here is because they're Black, and I'm Black, so that means I could have easily been in church. I like to go to church on Wednesdays, like that could have been me or my mother, who is always in church, or anybody for that matter in our community. And it's just like the only crime, I'm putting up air quotes, is that they were Black, and this cretin, this horrible, despicable, demonically possessed human being went in, sat with them for an hour, listened to the word of God, and then massacred them. So it disturbed me that we could be in this kind of place right now. So I couldn't go to sleep. I got up. What can I do? So the first thing I did was actually I was thinking about the congressperson, Clemente Pinckney, and that these bodies were going to have to, drive by the State House, because he was going to, lay in state or something, drive by a State House that was flying a Confederate flag.
Yeah, the irony in
that just didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, how do we reconcile that these people were massacred because of racism, and you're going to fly a flag and have this man's body go by it to his final resting place? It just didn't. So I picked up the phone that morning and called Nikki Haley's office. Now, who am I? I'm not thinking I'm anybody that she's even going to pick up the phone and answer. But I felt like I couldn't just do nothing. So I picked up the phone and I called, and the secretary answered, and they transferred me to her office, and another person picked up, and I said, I'd like to speak to Nikki Haley, Governor Nikki Haley, about what? And I said, I'd like her to take the flag down. And I gave the very thing that I just said, that flag is flying while these people's bodies are going to be, driven by. It just seems the height of like something that's inherently wrong with this country. And the woman that answered said, "Oh, that's not going to happen." And she was a Black woman, because Black people, when you talk to Black people, "Oh, no, that's not going to happen." And I said, "Why not?" She said, "Oh, it's just always been. It's just always been." And I said, "You sit there every day. You have to come into the building with that flag. Are you happy with that?" She said, "No, but it's just always been. They're just never going to take it down." So when she said that, I hung up the phone from her, and I was pissed.
Yeah.
So I'm
she
a
had
writer.
such a defeatist attitude. Right?
So I
Such a
sat
defeated
down and
spirit.
typed out a couple of graphs, out of anger, out of anger and hurt. And I wasn't thinking anybody, and I'd never done a petition, but my sister-in-law had just sent me a petition for something that she was railing against because she does petitions a lot. And I've never done a petition in my entire life. But so I only used MoveOn.org because she had sent me something from MoveOn.org, and I was like, this is easy enough. So I threw it up as a petition. I don't even know why. And I hit send. And I got ready to go to this radio station and drove in, talked about it on the air, was angry, went through the whole thing. By the time I got off the air, MoveOn.org had called me. It was like,
wow,
your petition's taken off. But I didn't know that people would actually sign it or what would happen next. I followed the instructions, hit send, and left. So I'm saying that you do things because you're driven to do them, because you're passionate about them, because it feeds your soul or your spirit and you move to do it, not because you think somebody's going to do something, because I never could have, if I had planned for 500,000 people to sign something that I crafted in 3 days. But it was a perfect storm. 9 people had to lose their lives. I had to get angry, write a petition. Bree Newsom followed that by going up the flagpole.
Yes.
And it was just one thing after another, and that resonated and drove people to the petition as well, because it was the one thing that was catching fire, and it had to catch fire. So you don't know what's going to happen. You just have to move through the things that you're moved to move through. Just move. And so that's what happened with the petition. But, anybody that has a platform, and I don't consider myself famous or that I'm, all this, whatever, I just am moved to do the things that I'm moved to do. And that's, I think a lot of people out there are moved to be famous, or they're moved to be seen, or they're moved to have people like them, or they're moved to have people follow them. I don't give a damn if no one follows me. I don't even want followers. I want people who are moved to do things, who may be inspired by something that I'm telling them to move to do things so that we can get some stuff done.
Yeah.
We got a lot of work to do, not just in the black community, but in society in general. We are inherently ignorant, and we are insolent, and we are uncivilized. And if we're going to change that dynamic, we have to move, and we have to be the examples that we are claiming we want to see, whether it's politics or finances. Like, let's stop being the whiny, complaining people who are always in a space of, why can't I get to, I'm not living. Well, live your best life. That's up to you.
I think I have my answer. So your answer is this. You're not letting everybody off the hook. You feel as if it's not just the responsibility of people who have radio shows and TV shows and people who are famous. It's each and every person's responsibility to stop complaining and make a move towards the type of life they want as individuals and the type of life they want for all of us as a society, as a nation, as a world. Would you agree with that?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. That's my message.
That's the message. I love it. I love it. I love it. So you have blessed us with a whole lot of wisdom that I think all of our listeners are really going to ponder on, especially this statement. Don't focus on the no's, focus on the next. And this idea that you have to fight through fear, fight through the pain of rejection, and focus on the next, move on, move into action. Please tell our audience members how they can keep up with you and all of your movements towards a better world.
Tune in to 126. I'm on 3 to 6 p.m., but you can listen on demand through the website and through the app that they have.
Yes.
But beyond that, you can go to KarenHuntershow.com. I'm about to launch, actually, Easter Sunday, which, again, another spiritual move, because out of my frustration from, not having the kind of freedom publishing platform that I really wanted, I decided to create one. Every day I'm on the air, I'm talking about politics and history and legacy building, and I'm like that, even with Sirius, that only lives somewhere for 5 days and then it's gone. So I said, how can I sustain this? We're woefully ignorant. Well, so I'm putting together something called The Hub, which is for the global majority. That's another movement where I'm telling people we're not minorities. I'm tired of hearing I'm a minority. No one's a minority who has melanin. We're the global majority, and every time we're diminished by the divide and conquer tactics that are art of war-esque, we have made ourselves weaker. We are all, and I'm including our brothers and sisters without melanin, because everybody was created, everybody on this earth has its roots founding in Africa, period. We're all part of the global majority, and if we start to see ourselves as part of a collective, not I'm a Dominican, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm black, come on, stop it, knock it off. We were all dropped off somewhere on purpose, divided, made to think that we're different, and we're not. So the global majority is another movement, and right now we're doing T-shirts and stuff. So you can go to theglobalmajority.com and get that. But the hub is such a powerful thing that I'm doing right now. I'm so excited about it because it's everything I've ever done in my entire career in one space. So it's books, history, legacy books. It's audio. We're doing podcasts where I'm talking with some really powerful people about powerful topics that I really, I can touch on the radio, but, it's in depth, everything
Deeper,
from Bitcoin to the Illuminati. I'm doing video with people as well. Like, we're sitting down. So eventually I want to craft this into like a Netflix for us, where we will do like scripted shows and documentaries and things, but it's called The Hub, and you can go to thehub.global if you sign up between now and April 16th, which is Resurrection Sunday, which I did not know when I picked the date back in January. I didn't know when Easter was.
Spiritual happening that you were not even aware of at the time.
Nah, so I know it's anointed. That's all I'm saying. Like when I actually looked up and I'm like, that's Easter Sunday?
Wow.
Stop. So I was like, okay. All right. I'm supposed to be doing this. So I'm super excited. Every day I'm contributing something to it. And every month we're going to add more, and it's a labor of love, and it's something that's going to grow, and I've invited people to share their stories about their experiences as Americans. We have like how-to guides, how to buy a house. We have a technology guide in there, as well as, a host of things that I just want to move the needle in people's lives. So if you go into the hub, you're going to learn, you're going to grow. I'm going to challenge you. I'm doing I did an intro to the Negro, which is W.B. Du Bois. I've broken down Ida B. Wells' writings and, commented on that. It's like connecting the dots each and every month, we're building to something, because I feel like, once we leave school, how many of us are challenged to keep the conversation going? And those of us, and it's not even about being academically inclined, it's like we need to be challenged on how we think about things.
Sure.
And the only way that'll happen is if we can have these conversations. But when do we have them?
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Karen Hunter. It sounds like you have so many exciting things going on. We appreciate you for blessing us with your wisdom, and we only wish the best for you. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you, Alma. I appreciate you, too.
Bye. We'll be in touch. Bye for now, Karen.
God bless. All right, blessings.
I threw my wish in the well, don't ask me, I'll never tell. I looked to you as it fell, and now you're in my way. I trade my soul for a wish, pennies and dimes for a kiss. I wasn't looking for this, now you're in my way. Your stare was holding, ripped jeans, skin was showing, hot night, wind was blowing. Where do you think you're going, baby? I just met you, this is crazy. Here's my number, call me maybe. Hard to look right at you, baby. Here's my number, call me maybe. Before you came into my life, I missed you so bad. I missed you so bad. I missed you so bad. Before you came into my life, I missed you so bad. And you should know that I missed you so bad.
Welcome back. You are listening to How to Make It in the City on WBAI in New York, 99.5 FM. You just heard a studio performance of Call Me Maybe, performed by Robert Markowitz. Robert Markowitz came to national attention in August of 2015 when the New York Times published his essay, Abandoning the Work I Hated. In it, he describes being a high-powered Palo Alto criminal defense attorney who sometimes made a couple of grand in an afternoon. However, the stressful lifestyle took a toll, and he began suffering from shoulder, neck, knee, and groin issues that required surgery. The health issues became a wake-up call that he needed a life change. He sold his law practice, traveled the world, and later found that he was way happier being a clown and children's entertainer. Welcome, Robert. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
So thank you for coming out. I actually was sent the article by my friend Randy. Now, Randy was an epidemiologist getting a master's in public health when he decided to become a magician. And he met me and learned that I was a securities lawyer or corporate lawyer at a bank who wanted to be a full-time storyteller. So when he saw your article in the New York Times, he sent it to me immediately, and it really resonated because we are both attorneys turned performers, and both of us often work with kids. And so I thought, this is a man after my own heart. We need to further share his story with the world.
Yeah, and I noticed that article came out in August of 2015, and that was when you left.
Life's coincidences.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think I got it like a little bit after I had quit. And it's like, yeah, very, very, very interesting spiritual coincidence. So please tell us in your own words about this journey from being a high-powered California attorney and now being a children's musician for the most part.
Okay. I think the fact is that the moment I entered Duke Law School, I knew that I didn't really want to be an attorney, but I didn't have the courage at that time to leave it. Everybody was saying to me, "Oh man, I want to be where you are. You've got it made. You're going to have it made for the rest of your life." And I knew that I was in the wrong place, but I did not have the courage. Like your former guest, Karen, she had the courage from the very beginning to do these things. I was scared. Yeah. And I wanted to do what people told me was the right thing to do. And so I had to go through a lot of pain before I hit that turning point. And that was, as you mentioned, when my body broke down, shoulder, knee, a couple of hernias that were operated on. I had something wrong with almost every part of my body.
Oh my goodness.
I couldn't lift more than a bag of groceries. I couldn't lift a bag of groceries.
Were you in severe pain?
I was in severe pain. I walked around with a pillow all the time. I had to sit on a pillow.
Oh my goodness. And so you were literally working on briefs while sitting on a pillow?
You got it. I brought my
goodness.
Pillow. Everybody said, "Why are you bringing your pillow everywhere?"
Oh my goodness. This sounds really pathetic. Okay, so you're in severe pain, you're still working, you're carrying your pillow around. When does it kind of click that something has to give, Robert?
Well, I reached the limit of my pain. I walked into the office one day, and I just couldn't stand to look at the color of the rug.
Wow.
Just something happened, something switched, and I couldn't stand to look at the color of the rug in my law office. And I promised myself I was going to get out in 9 months, and I did, and I headed off to Mexico.
Okay, what did you do in those 9 months to prepare yourself, your mind, your finances for this trip to Mexico?
Funny thing is, I made more in those 9 months by a long shot than I had been making. It just all poured in. I was tempted. I thought, I could buy a condo in Palo Alto, put down a down payment with what I've made in this last 9 months. And I thought, if you do that, you cannot live with yourself.
Okay, and so you make all this money, you're able to save some money, you don't put a down payment, and so then you say, okay, time for me to travel. And to quit, did you quit before you traveled?
Yeah, I quit. I sold my law office to somebody, to another lawyer, and I headed down in my Datsun to Mexico, to San Miguel de Allende in the Guanajuato, in the Sierra Madre Mountains.
So now, did you tell people what you were doing?
I told people. I told friends. I told family. A lot of people thought that was exciting. My mother basically told me I was ruining my life.
Oh my!
And people thought I was crazy.
And what did you think about yourself?
I was desperate.
You were desperate for change. You just knew something had to give. You just knew you couldn't take it anymore.
I couldn't take it anymore.
Oh my goodness! Well, I think I want to touch on something you said, because you said many people believe that you had made it, and the title of this show is How to Make It in the City. So it's very interesting that in this life that you hated, other people from the outside believed that you had made it, but for you that was not making it. What was making it in your mind at that time, if certainly making a grand in an afternoon was not your thing? At least at that expense.
Well, I was trying to figure out what I really wanted to do. And, I got a clue. I used to listen to Terry Gross, Fresh Air.
Okay, not familiar, but I'm going to go listen.
Show
yeah,
on NPR.
Actually, yes. Okay, sure,
and
I've heard it.
She'd interview these people who were making a living as artists of one kind or another, authors, people like that. And I'd get so jealous.
Okay.
And that jealousy tipped me off that what I probably ought to be doing.
Okay, I love it. So you had this sense that, hey, this is not the life for me, and you had a glimpse of what that life could be by hearing these artists talk about their lives. So now you're in Mexico. Tell us what happens next.
Well, a couple of things happen in Mexico. One thing is that some established writers who had written novels took me under their wing, and they let me be in their writing group, and I thought it was like, I made the New York Yankees,
Okay, great.
And so that happened. The other thing that happened is that I started going to a Unity church. I was raised, have a Jewish background, but both my parents were atheists, and they had a very low opinion of any kind of religion or spirituality. And I started to build that for myself in Mexico by going to that church. The minister was a metaphysical Christian, but was also Jewish, and that kind of helped me get in there.
Interesting. What did that do for you in terms of your awakening and figuring out what you wanted to do for your life? What did that church experience or experiences, what did those experiences do?
Well, I started to realize that that there was something deeper inside me that I could access that had a whole lot more wisdom than I had. That was basically it.
Wow. Okay, and how did you start to access it?
I started to meditate, and I started to talk to other people about it, and I started to read books like Louise Hay and stuff like that, Marianne Williamson, Course in Miracles. Also, I started a journey that way. What I found out eventually is that it was great to meditate, but meditating, once I came back to the United States, meditating wasn't going to get me to the next place I had to go. I had to experiment.
Okay, and how did you start experimenting?
Well, the first thing, I started to look at want ads in the New York Times, and here I'd see all these jobs, and my spirit just would be low. Everything was low, and I was depressed, honestly. And then I saw a job, and it said, work as a clown, $25 per show, which was even then not much.
Okay.
And for some reason, inside, I felt the fire kind of flickering.
Your spirit was awakening at this prospect. Okay, interesting. Now, at this time, you're at home, right?
Because I'm living at home with my mother at 37 years old, Alma. I was humiliated,
Oh, Lord, help us.
embarrassed. My friends shied away from me, all except for maybe one or two really close friends. They all said, we'll see you later.
Yeah.
My mother told me I was ruining my life. What's that?
They thought you were a fool.
They thought I was a fool.
They thought you were going crazy.
And a failure. And
oh,
you know
Lord,
what?
a failure.
My whole life, that was the one thing that I wanted to, that I didn't want to be.
A failure.
I was terrified of being a failure, and now I was a failure.
Okay, so this is very interesting because the author of the Harry Potter series discusses how failure can be the best thing that happens to you because it makes you realize there's nothing to fear. If what you feared so much has come to pass and you're still alive and you're still well and you're moving, as J.K. Rowling would say, then you're all right. So that kind of happened to you. Okay, so we're envisioning you. You're in the basement. You are living with your mama at 37, not a high bachelor pad, not the Palo Alto condo, and you see this advertisement for a clown work paying $25 per show, and you get excited. So you call, right?
I call. I go down to Manhattan. I do the clown introduction workshop. I buy the clown kit for $59. It has, some magic tricks and clown shoes and, all you need to start as being a clown. And I get a call, and they send me to the Ground Round restaurant in Yonkers to do a 7-year-old kid's birthday party, my first
gig as a clown. Yes.
And by the end of that show, that 7-year-old kid looks at me and says, I call myself Bobo the clown. That 7-year-old kid looks at me and says, Bobo, I love you.
Wow.
And when I went back to my car, I put my head down on the steering wheel, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt happy.
Wow.
I felt happy. I thought, wow, I'm getting to it here. I'm getting to it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So now eventually you transition from being primarily a clown to a professional children's musician. Tell us how that transition worked.
Okay. Well, I decided that after bumping my head against the wall a little bit, I decided that I was going to book a summer tour in 1996 throughout Connecticut and New York and that area. And I had my routine worked up, and one time this librarian in Connecticut said, "You come up here. I'm going to get 5 of my friend librarians. You audition for us. I'll get you 5 gigs right off the bat if you're any good." So I go up there. I audition before those 5 librarians. At the end, nobody's looking me in the eye. Everybody's looking over my shoulder. Nobody hires me. The feeling was, you stink.
Oh, my goodness.
And I took the long drive back in my car.
Oh, my.
And I thought, what am I doing? I stink. What have I done here? I can't do this. But I didn't quit, and I just kept on doing it, and I got better, and I got better, and I got better. And I guess, I got to the point where Pottery Barn Kids had me touring up and down the Northeast coast to all their Pottery Barn Kids stores, and paying me $450 an appearance, which was better than 25.
For sure, well, a lot better.
And I was drawing 200 people and over in some of those stores, and all of a sudden, their strollers were all over the outside. They had a standing room only, and eventually I knew how to do it.
Amazing. Audience members, are you listening to this? He went from this horrible experience of rejection driving from Connecticut. I mean, if I were you, I certainly would be crying. You drive all this way, you invest this time, nobody books you. They tell you in plain language that you stink, to later on, and I'm sure not too long after, being hired at a rate that was more than 10 times the original clown rate, right? Almost twice that. And you are able to pack rooms and people are happy. Wow. This raises a really phenomenal point that I bring up in a lot of my workshops and seminars. There are YouTube videos of known celebrities, Grammy award-winning artists such as Erykah Badu, Brandy Norwood, etc., Tyrese, and they show them on the subway trains singing, either on the platform or actually in the trains, and people are booing them and not paying them any attention. Yet these same people have made millions of dollars and have albums that are beloved and celebrated. And so I bring this point to say that your experience mirrors that, in that you can be in a situation where people are not appreciating your art and talent, but that's no reason to quit, because there is still an audience and market for you. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Okay, so now things are getting better, obviously. You get this big break with Pottery Barn Kids. One thing I wanted you to share with our audience, because I've spoken to you separately and you've told me about this, is you've gotten over the variable income roller coaster. And from September to, let's say, June, when schools are in session, you're able to have a set, steady income because of the relationships you've built with schools and libraries. Tell us how you did that.
Yeah, well, I do have that. I have about 15 schools. I work with, most of the time I'm working with kids 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
And I have a set 15 or so nursery schools, and I appear at those nursery schools regularly, sometimes as much as 5 times a month, sometimes only once a month, but it fills every weekday morning. I also have about 8 set libraries, and I appear at these libraries regularly and to do performances. So the good part about that is I'm not cold calling and trying to book myself every spare minute. I do that for the summer, but I don't do that during the school year.
How did you get there? Did you cold call those 100 of them and 15 booked a program? Did you create a program? How specifically did you get to that point?
That's a great question. And it did look, on the outside, it did look like that. It looked like cold calling all these places and people saying no, no, no. And you think, there's nobody who wants to do this. But what I find, this is my feeling about it. The universe will test you. And the universe will say, are you really serious? And like, if you have a big plan B that's in the back of your mind and you're not so serious, you're thinking, I'll do this if it works, or if I can make this amount of money from it, but otherwise I'm not going to do it. See, that's not a really strong stance. The strong stance is, I'm going to do this, period.
No matter what. Yes.
Period.
Period. Mm-hmm.
Whether I make $75,000 a year or whether I make $5 a year. You know, I'm going to do it. I mean, I'm going to find a way. And I don't have a backup plan. This is it. I'm not saying you can't be flexible sometimes, but you have a strong commitment. The universe starts responding to that strong commitment. Now, does that mean that you don't need a website, that you don't need to cold call people? No, you need to do all those things. But I do think that there's something in having a stance where you really know, I'm committed, this is what I'm going to do. And once the universe, I think, feels that about you, things start to turn.
It starts conspiring in your favor.
Exactly.
It starts conspiring in your favor. No, this is absolutely wonderful. And so you just felt like through your persistence, at some point things fell together and you had these set gigs.
That's right.
Wow. Okay. No, absolutely exciting. Question. For any of our audience members who were like you, how long ago was it that you quit your job, quit your law practice in Palo Alto?
Well, it's pretty ancient history by now.
I was like,
I quit and went to Mexico in 1993. I quit and went to Mexico. I came back, and after Mexico, and I worked as a lawyer for about a year after that too. So I think altogether, it was like 1990. I got it mixed up, but I think 1994 I was finished with law.
Okay, so if anyone go back to your former self. 1994, you're thinking about going into being a children's entertainer. There are audience members who are lawyers, who are doctors, who are engineers, who are, I don't know, receptionists, and they are thinking the same thing. What advice do you give to that person?
The advice I give is this. Everybody has something, or most people have something. For me, it was I could go home and live with my mother. Now, was I totally humiliated? Yes. I didn't have a family at that time. I was totally humiliated. Did my mother like me being there? No. Did she kick me out? No. You have to look at what you have, and sometimes you have to reevaluate what you're willing to do.
Okay. What you're willing to do, what you're willing to sacrifice.
And what you're willing to feel. We all try to avoid these feelings. We don't want to be humiliated. We don't want to be rejected.
Okay.
We avoid those feelings, but you have to be willing sometimes to go through a lot of those feelings.
Yeah, those feelings of rejection, those feelings of confusion, those feelings of disorientation for the ultimate goal, which is your happiness.
That's exactly right. And if I didn't put it in, Alma, I was so confused, so disoriented, so I felt totally humiliated in that transition. And I just want to put that in because it's true.
And it's a part of the process. No, I thank you so much. Please tell audience members how they can keep in touch with your work.
Well, I'm happy for anybody to email me if they want. I don't have any aversion to that. ROBT Markowitz, MARKOWITZ @iCloud.com. And I'm on Facebook as Robert Markowitz, and I'm on Facebook also as Robert the Guitar Guy, which is what I go by when I perform.
Your stage name, your stage name, Robert the Guitar Guy. No, really, really, really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing your I would say very honest and very candid experience of transitioning from a lawyer, criminal lawyer, to a children's performer. Thank you for your candor. Thank you for your authenticity, and we wish you well.
Thank you, Alma.
This concludes How to Make It in the City. We are grateful for the wisdom and experience of both Karen Hunter and Robert Markowitz. They have inspired us to believe that we can indeed make it in this city. Thanks so much for listening. I'm your host, Amma Karikari-Yawson, Esquire, author of Sune's Gift and Educator. I'd love to visit your school, corporation, or organization, so please feel free to contact me. Just say hello. My number is 347-886-2026. Again, 347-886-2026. My email address is ama@milestales.com, milestales.com, ama@milestales.com. I look forward to connecting with you at the same time next week, right here on WBAI in New York, 99.5. Until then, I'm wishing you all love, joy, health, peace, and prosperity. Be well, loved ones.